Hey guys, welcome back to Go and Make. It's a podcast here presented by Jesus Film Project. I'm Andrew Crabtree. I'm an advocate for the ministry here and one of the co-hosts of the show. This is Ryan.
Ryan Widener, Director of Marketing and Communications here.
Today we had a really cool guest on. Jayson Whelpley was here.
Yeah, he was awesome.
And he's on the digital products team here.
Yeah, he been working with Jayson for a while now, and he's doing some really cool stuff on, like you said, our digital products that include our app and some other digital connectivity devices that we throw out there for the field. And so it was great to listen to him and kind of the thought that goes behind all the work that he's trying to do.
And just really getting a scale, I feel like, on where that app is being shared. I mean, it's very global.
Yeah, I mean, we could do episode after episode of just app stuff, but it was really cool. So check it out. Let us know what you think.
All right, we are here with Jayson Whelpley from Jesus Film Project. Jayson, thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
And maybe just maybe if you want to just start off by telling us how long you've been around and what you do here.
So I've been with Crew for 17 years. I've been with Jesus Film for about 9 now. I am currently the design lead for the digital products team. Help pull together our design resources, people, and other resources to make sure that we are building tools and resources that are actually effective and useful for the people in the field.
And what what specific, products maybe we've seen that you've worked on,
The primary one is the Jesus Film app. After that is the website. I'm getting pulled more into working on the website, but I primarily worked on the app. I've worked on some products like the Wi-Fi box, which allows people to download videos and digital resources in the field. And there's been a lot of other smaller scale projects design-wise that I've worked on as well.
Okay, so let's talk about the app for a second.
Yes.
So that's a big one, you said.
Yeah.
What is, when you say work on the app, what is exactly are you doing there? And what kind of thinking goes into that if you're talking about different audiences, maybe here in the United States who might use the app, which they should. It's really an incredible tool. But then also people like internationally around the globe, because it is a global use case kind of.
Actually, I think it was either last year or the year before, we actually saw that we had user sessions in every country on the planet with the exception of North Korea.
Wow.
North Korea was the only one we did not have.
When was
this? It's either 2017 or 2018.
Okay, so recently, in the last few years, we've had an open session, you said?
At least one session in every country other than North Korea.
So an open session is just the app gets...
Somebody opened it in there. I don't know that may be true in 2019 as well. I have not seen those numbers, but I do know that there has been a very recent year
incredible.
where it has been every single country on the planet.
So how does that feel? You have worked on something that's been used on every country on the
biggest
planet.
Global scale.
And that has been one of the things that has been such an encouragement working for the Jesus Film Project is I never wanted to work behind a desk. I came on with Crew to work on campuses, to work with people directly communicating the gospel. And so being able to be in a role where I can work behind a desk in Orlando and actually not just know that my work is helping people hear the gospel, but be able to see changes that we make actually have direct effects on the numbers of people that are interacting with it. When I first stepped into a design role 5 years ago, something had happened that our installs had dropped by like 15%, literally overnight. From one day to the other, our install rate went down, and had to track down what had changed, and we figured out that we had moved a button from the top of our page to the middle of our page and had dropped our numbers that much. And so being able to see, hey, someone made this decision. I don't know who made it, but I made the decision, we need to move this back to the top, and the numbers went right back up.
That's crazy.
And being able to see my work affect installs going up, and our install rate has a direct correlation with people hearing the gospel. Can you ask the question again?
Well, I have a question now.
Okay.
Like you were saying, like you're kind of doing this behind the desk thing, but you go to the field all the time also. So what are those? So it's yes and. So what are those experiences like when you are going on the field? You're trying to make this product better and more usable and be more efficient. So what do those interactions look like when you are in the field, talking with people?
So
what are you learning?
I have had the opportunity to visit 4 countries, to do some research as far as how our tools are being used. So in 2017, I traveled to Nepal and was able to go into, unfortunately I didn't go into the mountains at all, but went in the far western part of Nepal and saw people using our tools in a way that they were, again, sharing the gospel with people that had not heard it before. They were sharing it in their language. But we took a tool called, I mentioned this before, called Wi-Fi Box, that was enabling people to load the app onto their phones, load films onto their phones without actually having a reliable data connection on their phones.
That's cool.
Enabling them to share the gospel, to share the Jesus film, to share other clips and tools, to have conversations with people. And we were able to have these conversations without having a data connection. I talked to one young man who literally showed me the idol he had built in his yard. And we were able to talk about who God is, who the God of the Bible is, who Jesus is, who controls the entire universe, as opposed to this literal God that he made out of a bag of concrete. That was his family God, and have him see that Jesus is the Lord of the universe and is the one that controls the wind and controls the rain and controls their crops and controls all of those things. And so being able to go into those areas and see what we ran into there was with the Wi-Fi box, the amount of data it took to run on a phone was actually too much. We were seeing people able to download the app, but it would never install. It would never run on their phone. And so I was able to come back and bring that data.
Because of the types of phones they're using?
The types of phones that they were using, but also just our app was installing huge on devices. Okay. And we had been testing for mostly Western audiences that have high-end Android devices and high-end iPhones. And we hadn't really seen the use case of, people are downloading it, but it can't install because their phone can't handle it. And so I was able to bring it back, and our developers were able to fix that problem. And we're still right now working on shrinking the size of our app more and more and more. In a time where apps are just bloated and they're just huge, these huge monstrosities that live on these phones, we're trying to pare it down so that it can work on every phone that people have. I traveled to...
I know my Angry Birds app is huge.
It's true.
It's big.
Yeah, every day and a half I get notifications about my phone's getting too full and I need to delete things. And I have one of the iPhones. So I traveled to the Congo in this past September, and even there we had fixed that problem. But what we're running into is there are people running phones that our app doesn't support anymore. They're running phones that are a decade old, that are running on operating system, Android operating systems that are 8 years old that we stopped supporting.
Yeah.
And we're getting analytics data back from. And so just going there and seeing, here are people that are using way old versions of the app that don't actually download all of our data anymore. And seeing those use cases where people want to use our tools. People have seen that the Jesus film and the short films that we provide are really useful for having conversations about the gospel and for helping people to see their need for a savior. But we had been unaware that there were still people using that old of a phone, because we don't see that here in the US. But when I was doing trainings with the Jesus Film mission trip team, we were seeing anywhere from 15 to 20% of the users in the Congo were on those phones. And so it has really shifted the user case that we're developing for. We're seeing a need to develop. So we have our...
It's probably pretty hard to develop something for such a broad...
That's what I was going to ask. So you talked about every country but North Korea. So there's hundreds of countries that you're trying to service. Is it the same user experience for every country, or how do you know?
What
this
do you
is
mean
the
by
best
user experience?
So like when you open the app, like is it the same app in every country? Like are they getting the same content? And
like does it look differently?
Does it look different? Does it act different?
If you're building stuff for different phones that probably have different interfaces,
so the user experience is not just when you open the app. The user experience includes everywhere even up to that, as well as we're developing and we're creating tools for a user experience that always involves another person.
Yeah.
So the idea for the app, I mean, say what's a 2 bullet point like summary of the app itself that you would say that this is why we have an app?
The app exists to facilitate conversations between people about the gospel, or to share content that itself can share the gospel. So you have things like Jesus, the film Jesus, the Jesus
right.
film.
Yeah.
That itself shares the gospel. And you have short films.
Which is on there.
Which is on there in 1,800 plus languages.
Yeah.
There's also things like the film that always gets me is Maria, about a man rescuing refugees that are drowning. And that itself does not communicate the gospel clearly, but I was on a street in the capital of the Congo and showed that film to a man and asked the question, has anything like this, have you ever seen anyone do anything like this, where they put themselves on the line to rescue someone? And he told a story about himself, where there was a doctor in his village that paid for, I think it was a heart surgery for this man that I was talking to, paid for it himself with no benefit for the doctor himself, and put himself out there to save this man's life. And we talked about how Jesus does that for us as well, that he put himself down, he laid his life down for us. And it's this, for me, it's a really powerful film.
So that was you using that.
That was me.
That on the app, you're able to bring that film up and have a conversation that way with that individual.
Yeah, and it was a fairly easy transition to the gospel from this guy laying his life down to rescue these people.
Sure.
And so those are the two things of just purely delivering media that itself communicates the gospel, as well as delivering opportunities for conversations about the gospel. But you asked about the user experience. We're trying to take into consideration not just the touching buttons on the app experience, but the experience of receiving the app, the experience of getting the films themselves, as well as the experience of sharing those films.
Yeah.
That whole user experience is what we're trying to design for. And it's way easier just to push pixels to make it look pretty and work well. That's the easy part.
Right.
And that's not easy, but it's the easier part. There's all the variables of low connectivity, low bandwidth, high security areas. Like I said, every country, there's a lot of countries where being a believer in Jesus and sharing the gospel can be a death sentence.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to provide user experiences for those places as well, to allow them to have access to it without putting them at risk, and without, honestly, some people it's just cost prohibitive for them to be able to have the bandwidth or the data connection to download it. And so we're trying to figure out tools and resources to allow that to happen as well.
Very cool.
So if you could, we're talking to a global audience here.
Yeah.
So this is on YouTube. People are watching
So
this
if anyone
on
needs
our
to
channel.
edit out any names of countries that I said, by all means,
We might bleep
bleep
you.
me out.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But if you had a microphone that could speak to a global audience, which is what you do right now,
I try.
how would you say this is? What's the benefit of the app for a person that, hey, follows Jesus and maybe wants to have an impact in the lives of those around them in some way? How would you say this is the benefit?
The benefit of the app specifically, again, I think there's two use cases. Here in the US, I think the main benefit of it is it provides opportunities to have conversations in languages that you don't speak.
Yeah.
So I have a neighbor who's from Haiti next door to me here in Orlando, and we've been able to have conversations about the gospel. I don't speak Spanish. Her English is so much better than my Spanish.
Well,
French?
probably.
She's from Dominican, so it's Spanish. So her English is better than my Spanish, but we've been able to have conversations because I was able to share the gospel with her through the Jesus film in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Globally, there's that use case of people that speak different heart languages than they do, but it also is the ability to clearly share the gospel and to facilitate conversations surrounding the gospel, where these films draw people into considering things that get to the heart of them, of their spiritual life. A lot of these films, like I talked about Maria, there's a number of other ones that just touch these soft spots in people's lives and allow them to see their need, whether it's for a savior, whether it's for someone that cares about them, whether it's for someone that actually controls the world around them. It allows them to see the need for that, and it gives the believer an opportunity to speak into that and to share, this is how the God of the universe and Jesus fulfills that in my life, and I see him as greater because of that, and allows people to see Jesus through these people's lives and through their stories as well.
Cool, man.
That was really cool. Well, thank you so much
for
my
coming.
Pleasure. The app is such a big part, I think, of what Jesus Film Project is doing internationally, and just to hear, so many stories in just one episode. This is very cool. Appreciate you coming on, man.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, man. So speaking of downloading the app, we'll put that link in the description of this video. You'll be able to take a peek at what Jayson's been building this whole time, and all the iterations there moving forward. So thanks again.
We're trying
man,
to get rid of some of those iterations.
We're what?
No, we're trying to iterate our way from some of those things, but yes.
Hey,
download
we're
it.
always
Android,
making things better, though.
iOS. We're working on some other international operating systems as well.
Oh, sweet.
We're trying to get there.
Dang.
We'll leave him a rating and encourage him, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Thanks, man.